In this next fly tying video in my Trout fly series, I'm tying up Richard Walker's Mayfly Nymph. Now, we touched briefly in some basic entomology in my last video in the series. This time we're going to be taking it that little bit further. We're going to be going straight into aquatic macroinvertebrates, in particular mayflies. So the order of insect being Ephemeroptera, which basically is anything with upright wings, so small flies, upright wing, usually is going to be your Ephemera. Within that order of insect, there's a family called Ephemeridae, which that is basically your mayflies in the UK. And there's actually 3 different species. There's Ephemera Lineata, Ephemera Vulgata, and Ephemera Danica. Danica probably being Danica is definitely the most common and what most people will refer to as either green drake or mayfly. But strictly speaking, they're all mayflies. Just one's being quite a lot more common than the others. So Lineata, I think, is very, very localized, something on the south, and then the Vulgata, certainly in the UK, is a little bit more widespread, but again, I think more down south, kind of southeast of England. And then the Danica or green drake, that being a lot more prevalent throughout the rest of the UK. Now, from a fly tying perspective and angling perspective, kind of 4 key components to the life cycle that you really want to concern yourself with. The first one being a nymph. So as a nymph, they're burrowing nymphs, have a life cycle around about 2 years. They then obviously become an adult. They hatch. There's 2 key kind of parts to the hatching cycle that you want to pay attention to, and then they go around, do the business, and then end up, the females in particular, end up coming back to the water, laying eggs, and then just lay there dead, exhausted, and become spinners. And strictly speaking, some males also kind of get blown onto the water. But 4 key components from a life cycle standpoint. The first one being the nymph. So this is Richard Walker's Mayfly Nymph. Hope you like the video, hope you like the pattern, and let's go on the fly tying. In the vise is a size 10 long shank hook with a little bit of added weight to it, and for the thread I'm using Vivus 12 Autumn Brown. To start off with, I'll just put in a quick jam knot, and then from there add in a little bit of wax just to help grip. So you'll find that without the wax it's sometimes a little bit tricky for it to grip and work over the little bit of lead foil that I've got down there, well, lead-free lead foil nowadays. So quick bit of thread covering everything up there, and then just work the thread wraps down to pretty much where that barb would be if there was a barb on the hook. For the tail, it's cock pheasant tail fibres. I'm going to take around about 8 is fine. It's one of these, although the actual insect itself only actually has 3 tails. It's just more impressionistic than anything else. I'll measure that out, quite stubby, so around about the thorax length. Catch it in. Yeah, that's about right. So, don't want to overdo the tail length though. I'm just going to catch it in, make sure I'm happy with that. Right, I'm going to invert the hook. I'm going to take another 3 fibres. I'm just going to catch them in. On the underbelly, just like so. I'll just snip those off. Okay, just work that up like that. At this point I'm just going to create a double loop. Again, I'm just going to hold the downwards like that, catch it in all the way up to those fibres there, push those fibres forward, and just give them a bit of a pinch to hold them forward. and then just work my way like that. The body is kind of an off-white. It kind of almost looks nicotine stained, Angora rabbit. So it's a creamy, yellowy. It's a custom dye I've actually done myself. But yeah, it's just a kind of a creamy, yellowy, kind of like a nicotine stain colour to it. So anything that's not really bright white. It's got a bit of a yellowy tinge to it, a little bit creamy tinge. Buff, cream. There's a few kind of options that you have with it. Right, I'm just going to work wraps in for the body up to those pheasant tail fibres like so, and work those wraps in front. Probably a little bit thick there, a little bit heavy, so I'm just going to backtrack. Just want to slim that out a little bit chunky. Okay, so a few turns in front, and now with these, I'm going to grab them all together and put in a few turns and then trap them in. Alright, I'll just get rid of those pieces, work back down. Now with this next section, I'm actually going to add this in relatively thick, so I'm not worried if there's a bit of a awkward, uneven taper to it, so I'll show you what I mean now. So this is going to go in pretty thick, not too fussed if there's a taper or not. You can see that it just goes in nice and thick. As long as it's thicker than previous, then we're fine. Again, I'm just going to catch a bit more in there, nice and thick. And the reason behind this is that is the kind of where the gills are on these bugs, so that's going to get brushed out now. I'll peel it all back because I don't want long fibres. I want kind of really bushy but not long. Okay, from there I'm going to take the dummy loops I created earlier, use my hackle pliers just to pinch them together, give a good spin. I'll turn it into a nice solid rope. A few extra turns there so I can use the rotary function. Now I'm going to keep this quite wide, and I'll just kind of look to try and balance it that I'm catching the pheasant tail fibres while I go over. So I'm not too worried about segmentation with that, it's just more about just trying to kind of add some extra durability to it as well as a segmentation. So okay, catch that, trim off. So the reason I was trying to do that is I want to keep those two bands really thick, so I want to try and wrap over those bands at the same time if I can. Okay, really get that little section there nice and buggy, because that's where the gills are on the actual insect itself. Can I get that really bushy segment there. Right, once we've got that bit in, back to the pheasant tail. Take around about 6 or 8, whichever you're happier with them. Probably going to 10. I don't think you need to count them. I don't think the fish do. It's just more impressionistic again. So I'll take a bunch of them, measure those out against the thorax, trap them in just behind the hook height. Again, I don't want them too long. Okay, catch that in like so. Leave those in place, take a few more fibres, all the ones that you had used earlier, so you're not wasting, and then just a couple of turns, trap those in on top. I like to flatten them a little bit at this point, just give it a slightly wider profile. Alright, work that up. Then back to the Angora wool. The Angora rabbit. Just nice tight dubbing needle on this. Okay, so work that in, get that a little bit tighter. Stretch that out a little bit. Let's pull in that little bit of a thorax section there. Okay, pull those fibres apart. Get them pretty even. Again, you don't need to worry about making sure they're perfect, as long as they're reasonably even. Okay, I'll pull those back and down, wing case over, pinch loop, pull out a couple of turns underneath, wax. I think wax is very handy at this one, at this point, because you can put in a quick head section there. Again, go under, and you can just add some tension to it and pull those away. So you don't have to use scissors, it gives you a much neater finish to it. So, not using these scissors, it's just nice and neat. Quick whip finish on that. And there you have your finished article, although if you want to, you can then add in a little bit of varnish or UV resin into the top section there, which I'm going to do now. So if you are doing this as an optional extra, you see that I'm kind of brushing it all down the sides. What I find is, as I'm doing this, if I've got to reload the brush at any point, I really don't want that seeping down too far. So it gets torch on pretty quickly. As it seeps down into the sides. That's just to stop that happening. With that part there, I'm not too worried. I'm putting in quite a lot. Let that seep in. And then put torch on it. So varnish the head and you're done. Hope you've enjoyed that.